episode of Coffee Shop Sports. I'm Zach. I'm here with Kevin in the coffee shop, cooking up some new takes, some holiday favorites, and just some other miscellaneous sports news before heading out into the holidays. How are you doing this morning, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm doing wonderful, man. Happy holidays to the listeners, to you, good sir. We made it. I am repping my fantasy footballers champ mug as hopefully an omen of what's to come for me the rest of the fantasy season. 3 of 4 money leagues made the playoffs, so that's something to celebrate.
I'm in a similar boat. I think I missed my main home league, which was just a killer.
Tough pill.
I was the 7th seed, so 6 went in. I got 7 lost by points because I had a real rough start of the year. Would have needed a perfect tie to be able to fall into the playoffs somehow, which is just not going to happen.
Was it close?
No, not really.
Yeah.
It was like a 10-point differential.
That's it's kind of close.
It wasn't terrible. It was close for a while. I was looking at it and it was like 88 to 89, and I was like,
You were so happy.
there's
You
a
were
shot. We could do this. We could be in here.
Yeah.
And I beat the 2nd seed to like get my win. So I had a good
nice statement
and
win.
yeah, it was like a I could have done this.
Little
Let's not
resume
forget.
builder. Dude, you know what really pissed me off? I am in a league with the guys from Legit Football, and I'm playing one of the CEOs this week, like one of the founders of the company. First of all, that's tough in and of itself. I made it to the playoffs. I scrapped and clawed. As you know, I had made some last minute trades just to secure my spot. Not fun to part with draft. I have like 3 draft picks next year, but it is what it is. And I'm like, oh, I have a better team than this guy. I'm going to win. And first round of the playoffs, this guy's banged up, right? He's missing Joe Burrow. He's missing Jonathan Taylor. He trades Joe Burrow, Jonathan Taylor, this, that, and the other for like Jalen Hurts and other pieces. And I was projected to win by 7. Now I'm projected to lose by 12 after he made this trade.
I mean, I guess that's the double-edged sword. I mean, you made the trades to get in, and now you're running against someone that made the trades to
win. Yeah, he had the security and the comfort. I didn't have that, and now I'm facing the Reaper. So I still 12 points is nothing crazy, and projections are dog water anyway. So we'll see what happens, but it's gonna be sweaty for sure.
We usually have a week 14 trade deadline leagues. Almost net. I don't hate having no trade deadline in Dynasty. I get it. I understand like the point.
Yeah.
But I don't like 4 teams in the playoffs just being like, all right, let me trade for just everybody I can to try and get the win. I get that that's like the going all in, but I think I like the idea of you need to go all in before you know you're in the championship. Like you need to go all in the week before playoffs being like, all right, I'm making that decision.
Yeah.
And then if your chips fall, your chips fall.
Yeah.
But if you don't, I like that.
I gotta evaluate the settings of my leagues because I do think Dynasty should have no trade deadline. I agree with you there. That feels unfair to the teams that are out of it that they can't, recoup
No, I disagree.
assets.
I think Dynasty should have a trade deadline.
And then but you have leagues where you don't though. You're saying
I have one league where I don't right now,
and I don't prefer
like
that. Okay.
My preferred setting, and I do this for my Dynasty leagues. It's not. I don't think it's an official setting in Sleeper, but I monitor it. Is playoff teams cannot trade while they're in the playoffs. If you're knocked out, you can trade amongst other teams. Stay engaged, keep that going. But until you're knocked out past week 14, no trading. You can't just go to the worst team and just be like, give me all your players for my draft picks 2 weeks before the championship. I don't like that. I feel like that defeats the purpose of like, you built this team over the season. You need to roll with that. You can't just have a new team because you skirted your way in the championship. I don't like that.
They don't do it in the pros. Some of the best rules in fantasy, I think, emulate the way they do it in the pros. And they don't do that in the pros. So how are you? Let's put a bow on this fantasy discussion because there'll be plenty of fantasy to talk about. How do you feel about divisions in fantasy football? Yes, no, maybe so.
I don't have any currently. I'm not in any leagues with divisions. We used to do divisions for my main league. I'm kind of mixed.
I'll say I passively like them, and I'm thinking about implementing them in my leagues because I think it makes for like fun rivalries.
Yeah, I like the idea of the rivalries. The only thing I didn't love about it was like the playoff implications for it.
Yeah,
Was like
exactly.
I don't love that like you could just it's the same thing I don't like about the NFL. Like the Falcons shouldn't be in the playoff.
Weaker
I
teams
don't
get in.
like that. Yeah. So if I could do divisions just for the scheduling aspect and have like divisions where you have like rivals, that's cool with me. I think that works better when you have 16 team leagues when you can have 4 divisions of 4. But those leagues are hella deep and like fucking hard to play in.
Yeah, I love
So
16 team leagues.
3 divisions of 4 is fun too, but I don't love the playoff implications of it. I do like the like culture it creates, so maybe I'll toy with it a time
Yeah,
or two.
we gotta evaluate. Look at us. Look at us, self-reflecting.
But we got the holiday season coming around the corner. We're
It's
not only
here.
a
I think
sports
it's fully
show.
fledged here.
It's here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say it's almost in full swing.
Yeah, I
Hanukkah
would agree
started
with
up
that.
last
Almost
week,
peak.
so I feel like that's like the big sign for me. As soon as like first day of Hanukkah comes around,
Start lighting
I
those
get a little-
menorahs.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that's the time that I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, that means we're in full swing because that means Christmas is around the bend. Everybody's going home.
Yeah.
And we did a little bit of holiday action on our last podcast, but we're gonna double dip here a little bit.
Hi,
just
Bo.
a
Nice
little
Christmas
bit of
bow.
little holiday action before we hop into the full pod. We'll keep this short, keep this fresh, a little couple minutes. We're gonna go favorite Christmas movie and favorite Christmas song for each of us. I'll let you take the floor. Start off though.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you giving me the floor. And it was a no-brainer before I rewatched this movie with Theo and Roxanne a couple nights ago. But it's a slam dunk now, and it's not even close. I think Elf is the Christmas movie. It is the best holiday movie. It just reminds me of like home and like being a kid and like discovering the magic of Christmas. And also discovering the magic of Christmas in the refined sense of like it isn't what you always think it's gonna be, but it still can be really special. And I think that's kind of what that's sort of the story that Elf tells, the web it weaves. It's so funny. Will Ferrell is one of the greatest comedic actors of all time. It's a stacked cast. There's elite jokes and bits in it. Yeah, Elf to me is, and obviously, if I'm saying favorite movie that qualifies as a Christmas movie, Die Hard 10 times out of 10. But if I'm saying favorite Christmas movie, like movie that I have to watch around Christmas time, that is a Christmas movie, like it's Elf, and it's a no-brainer.
I do love Elf. I'm not gonna come out and hate or anything.
Love
I don't
that.
think
Proud of you.
it doesn't land in my number one spot. I never loved it as much as everybody else. I think like I wasn't like this is the clear cut goat of Christmas movies. But it's great and it's a classic and it's the first one we watched this year when we were setting up our tree.
Nice.
Because it is such a classic. It's like what are we putting on? Elf.
Yep.
This year's the 20th anniversary of it as well.
Didn't even know that.
Right? Crazy.
It's
Which is
different.
funny because my number one pick, it's also the 20th anniversary of that movie.
I know what it
get
is.
To that.
Yeah.
But you know what? I was going to bring up, we watched The Holdovers the other day, which is a new movie that just came out with
Paul
what is
Giamatti.
his- Yeah, Paul Giamatti.
Love him.
And it's technically a Christmas movie,
Yeah.
like they're over like Christmas break. Really, really good.
Good movie.
Like, very, very good movie. Yeah,
I've heard
big fan of
wonderful
that.
things about it. I thought the trailer looked awful, and then everybody
Yeah,
says it's
really good.
everybody says
Yeah.
it's brilliant. So I
It's
might
like
have to check my.
heartwarming, emotional. Yeah, very,
Yeah.
very good movie.
I'll watch it for sure. I'll watch
And Paul
anything.
Giamatti's just such a goat, man. He's so
He's
good
so
in
good.
it.
He's
and
so good.
apparently, we were talking about this afterwards. He doesn't actually have a lazy eye, like in real life. Like everybody was like, oh, maybe he like got a lazy eye, and like they still just like casted him in the part. No, the man somehow acted himself into a lazy eye, like, and people are interviewing after. And they're like, how did you do it? And he won't tell anybody. He's just like, trade secret. Sorry, can't tell you.
Oh my god!
And so like he just straight up acted himself into a lazy eye for this entire movie. And that's
somewhere in the
insanity
world,
for me.
there's a lazy-eyed actor who's just so pissed that they didn't get that role. I'm just kidding.
Hilarious. No, my favorite Christmas movie is Love Actually.
Oh wow! Oh wow! That's a little curveball. I did not think that's a great movie. That's a great movie.
I love it. I love rom-coms myself, and that's such a good one. Star-studded cast, you know. I love the, like, it's almost like the mix of, like, you know, you get like storylines that all converge. I love movies like that, and then you get this one in like a more lighthearted Christmas sense. It's obviously iconic from the like Keira Knightley scene.
Yeah.
Like you were holding up the signs and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Not my favorite scene in the movie, but I do really, really love it. I look forward to watching that every single year. And it's the 20th anniversary. That's my favorite one, I think. Pretty hands down.
You just definitely scored big points with Mama Fox. She loves Love Actually. I've watched it a lot. It's great. I will say I love Hugh Grant. He's awesome. And also, we both gave shout outs to Alan Rickman films. So shout out to Alan Rickman. He's one of the GOATs. Rest in paradise.
Is Alan Rickman an elf?
Oh, I was talking about Die Hard. I threw some love to Die Hard.
I was like, am I tripping right now?
Yeah, you don't remember the scene when Hans Gruber comes in and seizes the North Pole? You don't remember that? And
I've
then
only seen
Will
Die
Ferrell.
Hard one time in my entire life, and I was
We
like,
have to fix that.
I was like 19, maybe.
We have to
maybe
fix
20.
that. Yeah, as a podcast, we have to fix that.
It was good. It was good. I didn't have no issues.
You'll see. You'll see. We'll fix that.
Well, we got one more Christmas song before we move on to the real content.
So very similar to my Die Hard pick. I have like one, or to my, you know, my 2-pack of picks. I have one that's like my like go-to Christmas classic. If I want to be in the Christmas spirit more than anything else, I'll go to the Andy Williams 2-pack of the Happy Holidays, and It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year. Andy Williams has the Christmas voice, and Happy Holidays, and he 2-packs it with the holiday season, right? He does that, the holiday season, and then he throws in the Happy Holidays, like switch up, like beat switch almost. Like, come on, dog. Ain't nobody asked for the beat switch in the Christmas banger, but he gives it to us. So and then that's like my like quintessential, like you talked about on the your favorite part of the holiday season, the aesthetic. If I'm going Christmas vibe, like that's the one. But I'm a sucker for alternative, like specifically, like I really love the Beatles. So McCartney's Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time just gets me, man. And it's weird because I don't think it's as acclaimed or like as vaunted, I guess, as the other ones, like as people would think of, like, you know, the Andy Williams ones or like the ones that you hear on the Christmas radio or whatever. But Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time, just to me, is just a banger. I love that song.
No, that is a good one. There are definitely Christmas songs I don't like, and that's not one of them. So can stand back there.
Happy to hear that.
I don't think you can have a best Christmas song conversation without bringing up Mariah Carey.
No,
because All I Want for Christmas Is You is just a banger. Like,
it's so good.
It's one of those songs that, like, every year it's like the first song you hear.
Yeah.
And I know some people are mad about it, and I can't be mad about it because it comes on and I'm like,
mad.
Fucking love this song. Like, it plays on and I'm like, nothing gets me more Christmas amped than All I Want for Christmas Is You, because it's got like the tempo, it's got like the iconicness, it's its own unique song. It's not like a cover of anything.
Yep.
So I think that's probably like one for me.
Yeah.
But it gets a little muddied.
I was gonna say I need an honorable mention at least, because that's kind of like the chalk pick, I think.
It's just hard, man. It's so
it's great,
good.
Dude. Sometimes, you ever hear the saying, "Cliches are cliche for a reason"?
Yeah.
Because it's like that.
It's like sometimes
the hits are the best.
Everybody loves something because it's actually just that good.
It does happen.
I think my honorable mentions is gonna be "Baby It's Cold Outside."
Okay.
With Ella Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I do. I love the Elf version of it. Seeing Elf and like hearing Will Ferrell and Zoe Deschanel sing that, I was like, oh yeah, this is
great. Yeah. It's a classic song, and I love that one. Anytime that's a great duet.
Yeah.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, the Michael
That's a good
Bublé
one
version, because he's Christmas king. Like, if Mariah Carey's Christmas queen, Michael Bublé is the king of Christmas music.
Yeah,
I think
I'll give Bublé.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I'll give him modern king, because Andy Williams, like, and Bing Crosby, they held it down. But
who we grew up with, I think it's Bublé.
Yeah, 100%.
And then very, very final honorable mention is "Last Christmas" by Wham, because
need to show love to that song.
Good one, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. I think we've put a bow on it, man. I think we're ready to haze in the
What are
barn.
your plans for Christmas this year? I don't know if we've talked about it.
So I'm so blessed to be able to attend and shoot content for this podcast at the December 23rd Buffalo Bills LA Chargers game in LA. And then the Bills 1 week after, because you guys know I'm a diehard Bills fan. Like the week after, I'll be attending Bills Patriots in New York. So the Bills playoff push will be right in front of my very eyes. And I would say that I'm ready to be hurt again, but something tells me, Zach, that Bailey Zappi and Easton Stick aren't gonna be hurting me too bad. I don't know. I don't want to be too confident, but I have a feeling.
Yeah, the hardest part is like you're like, oh yeah, Easton Stick is not gonna beat, and then you look and you're like, oh, it's the Raiders. Fuck, like he could easily beat the Raiders.
Right.
So yeah, you guys will have a tough run of it. It also doesn't help you very much that not the Chargers, the Chiefs have just such an easy schedule to end the year, and so do the Broncos, and the Texans have a
Broncos,
pretty light schedule.
yeah,
So it's like it's going to be a race. Yeah.
it is. And it's so weird. I never even thought, like, I wasn't packed in. I would never pack it in. I'm not that kind of fan. But I wasn't as concerned about making the playoffs. I was kind of like, okay, we
We're
might
ready to pack it in. For a
ready
second
to
there.
for sure.
We
Yeah,
were ready to pack it in.
I had my
yeah.
stuff. I was holding my stuff and I was just scoreboard watching. But I'm back. I'm fully in my seat. I'm parked. I got my seatbelt down. Whatever. We're good. To tell you the truth, Zach, the division is still in play because of Miami's schedule. Buffalo is 2 games back on like from a record standpoint, but they play Miami in Week 18, and Miami plays the Jets, the Ravens, the Cowboys, and us. So, and meanwhile, we play Easton Stick and Bailey Zappi. So I kind of feel like there's a little bit of a chance that Week 18 could be for the division. Like a good chance,
there
actually.
definitely is a good chance that comes down to that.
Yeah.
The Dolphins would have to eke out a couple of wins, or the Bills. This game against the Cowboys this week, I think, is going to be a really big game for the Bills, because if they do win that, I feel like their chances go up like a ton.
Astronomical. Yeah. If they win that game, the playoffs should be an expectation, not a bonus. If they lose, they will be they'll be continuing that same uphill like playoff winner go home mentality, for the final 3 games of the season. So it would be nice to have that cushion. It really would. But unfortunately, I hate to like do this, like to compartmentalize in this extreme of a sense, but if you're going to drop any of your last 4, it's got to be to the NFC opponent. Their conference record has been dog water all season. The one more conference loss for the Bills, and it feels almost like a sayonara. I mean, they might be able to afford to lose Week 18 to the Dolphins, but other than that, they need to win at least 3 of those 4 games somehow.
Yeah, coming down to Chargers Patriots. Patriots is really the one I'd be most concerned about.
Yeah.
Looking forward, I think just they're so volatile as a team.
Yeah.
Like, the defense is so good that it's like, if they stumble into offensive success, like they can,
like they
people.
did against Pittsburgh,
right? Like
they did against us
happens
earlier in the year.
It's over. Like, it's not
Yeah.
over, but it's like it's a game. Like they
Yeah.
can be like, if the offense can click for 90 minutes,
Yeah.
they can beat almost anybody in the NFL. So
Dude, Zach, people forget, man, that football is a 60-minute sport that is played between 2 groups of 53 people.
yeah, did I say 90 minutes?
Oh no,
think-
no, it's a 60. You did say 90 minutes, but it's a 60-minute game played by. That's funny because I said people forget, but I mean it literally. Like it, any given Sunday, it's a real thing, and I think the Chargers and the Patriots both represent that sort of an any given Sunday type threat to the Bills. So hey, live long and prosper. What's the Hunger Games? Keep calm, carry on. Or no,
I don't know if
the
that's Hunger Games. I think that was
that's England. You're muted. I think the Hunger Games was keep calm and stay
Is that like-
alive. I think that was
oh,
the
it might
Hunger
be,
Games.
because I was like stay calm. I think it was like that chive meme that was blowing up.
Oh my God, yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Years. Yeah. I don't know if that's from anything else.
Yeah, they just
Well, before we get into our daily special, I do want to talk about the National Blowout Association for a
Oh
second.
no. Please spare me.
I can't spare you because you single-handedly, not your fault, not your fault. I'm into the NBA more than I was previous years. I was a big NBA
I
fan
will take
for a
credit for
while.
that. Give
Yeah, but
say
it's a mix
single-handedly.
actually. There's three. I'd say there's 3 or 4 reasons I've been watching NBA more this year. You,
Thank you.
sports betting, is
Yes.
probably easily two.
Yeah.
You know, 3. Both the Nuggets and the Celtics are really good,
Yeah.
and I don't want to miss out
The fun.
on that. Hold on, there's a police outside my house.
Mm-hmm. They're coming for you.
There's a lot of police outside my house.
Prayers up.
You hear this?
I do actually.
It's
It's
like
not bad.
6 or 7. No, there's more. Okay. Anyway, moving forward, and then I think number 4 would just be that I'm working from home and I can throw the
Nice.
games on while I'm working.
Yeah,
from
that's a
home.
nice bonus. That's a nice
Yeah,
bonus.
that helps for sure. But what I've noticed more than anything was a difference about that is like what you talked about with the NFL, where it's like any given Sunday, like the talent gap is so small between teams that it's like, the worst team can beat the best team. The NBA is not like that.
Very
It is
much
just-
not.
It's not like that, man.
No.
Like you have a team that's like, oh wow, like yeah, the Nuggets are one of the best teams in the league, and they're going up against the Pistons. Like they're an NBA team. They could win. No, they can't. They can't.
They
It's
actually
not going to
kind
happen.
of can't. Yeah.
You usually only get 2 to 3 quarters of basketball. You saw that last night at the Clippers Kings game,
Sucks, man.
where
It's
you're
such
up
a
by
bummer.
30 at halftime,
Yeah.
and it's like, what? Why? Like, what's the cause behind the, like, why are there so many more blowouts? I don't remember basketball being just, hey, there's 2 to 3 games a week that are 30-point blowouts where you're not watching a full game of basketball.
Yeah, it sucks so bad. I think a lot of it, I think there's a couple huge factors. I think the big pillar factor is that there are 5 starters and really 4 rotation players. So the talent gap between the good and the bad is, I guess, smaller than in terms of like there's a 53rd guy on an NFL team, not a 53rd to first is bigger than ninth to first, right? So that sort of is like works in the other way. But that also means that the 5 best players play the majority of the game and they control so much more of how the game shakes out. In the NFL, if you have a Garrett Wilson, who's, maybe a top 7 talent at the wide receiver position, he plays 1 out of 11 who is being defended by 11 guys. And they have so much more to overcome. The really great players in the NFL have so much more to overcome than the great players in the NBA, because if you just get the ball in one of the really great players' hands, what makes them great is that they can do stuff with the ball in their hands and they don't really need anything else to go right other than clear me a path and let me score. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that it's more individual control over the sport. So if you have 5 individual, that's why super teams are so prominent, I think, because if you have 5 guys who all can individually dominate, then they can all individually dominate their one-on-one matchups. And if one of them's having an off night, then swing it to somebody else. And if they're all on, good luck. We saw that with Golden State and Cleveland for a couple of years. LeBron James being, one of the great, having some of the greatest individual performances we've ever seen. Same with Steph Curry on the other side. That's like my, conceptually, I think, is the answer. And then, this is the answer that I hate and I don't want to give, but I think a lot of it also has to do with load management and asset management. Unfortunately, I did attend a Kings and Clippers game last night, and I did not see De'Aaron Fox for the last 19 minutes of on-court action. And I think that had to do with the fact that the Kings were
Why
down
play him if you're not
22,
going to win?
and they
I
were
mean,
like,
it makes sense though.
It makes sense, but it also, you can't have a 24-point comeback if you don't have Fox out there. You know what I mean? So I do get the
Yeah.
logic of it. Like, I do get it, but it's like kind of depressing as a fan who, pays good money to see a game and then sees really 32 minutes of a game. And then one team decides that they're waving the white flag. Like I told you in pre-show, when they brought out Chris Duarte and, I'm trying to think of who, there were some other gems on the Kings bench that I was like, oh, I remember that guy. Like, he's been kicking around. But I think those are the big reasons. Do you have any theories or counter theories to that?
I do actually. I think more than anything else, it's the reliance on 3-point shooting in the NBA and
That's
the
definitely some
innate,
involved too.
right, I think it's the innate variance of 3-point swings. So previous NBA history, like a run of 3 2-point shots and maybe like 1 3, like you go on that sort of run, that's 9 points right off the bat, right? That's 9 points there off of 4 baskets. But in the modern NBA, where 3-point variance and shooting variance is so much higher, if one team goes on a 6+ basket run, that leads to 18-point variance rather than maybe like a 12-point variance. So if
Yeah.
you have one team shooting, and we saw that with the in-season tournament with the Knicks and the Bucks, the games that we
I
were watching.
was hoping you wouldn't bring that up, but you're so
No, I
right.
have to, because it's two very, very good teams in the NBA, and the reliance on 3-point shooting. You saw the Bucks go up just so quickly after halftime, where
And
it's
so
like,
and stifling too.
yeah, because if you can't shoot threes, if you are sitting there on a team that has a 3-point variance, the point swing you can have is crazy. So let me pull up a stat that I found from the Athletic. Is in 2022, there are a percentage of games with a 10+ point 3-point variance. So it's like the percentage of games that had 10 or more points like over their competitor because of threes. So let's say one team ended with 120 points, the other team ended with 100. If more than 10 of those points were a 3-point differential, it counts in this statistic. In 2013, less than 10% of games had a 10+ point 3-point variance.
Wow.
So a normal amount.
Yeah.
In 2022, that number skyrocketed to 33% of games.
Oof.
So a third of games had a 10+ point 3-point variance between teams. And I think that's just going to lead to blowouts. And it's crazy.
So that
It's
that
kind
would
of like a thought of,
theoretically that stat would theoretically mean that team made 4 more 3-pointers than the other team, right? It would have to mean that, right?
at least, yeah.
Yeah.
At least
Okay.
4 more 3-pointers
Because
than the other
that
team.
equals 12 points. Okay, and I feel like I'm surprised it's only 33%. Low key, I feel like that team. Oh, but that stat only includes blowouts, right? Or games where the teams won by 10 or more. Because
No, just 10-point variance. So they could
Okay.
theoretically win by 4 points.
Okay.
But if they've scored 10+ more threes than
I
the other
see, I see.
team, that's in there.
Wow.
It's just kind of like the shooting luck, and the Athletic article on it goes into it, where it's like, if you're shooting hot in modern day NBA, you're probably going to blow someone out.
Yeah, you're kind of unbeatable. Did you ever hear the phrase in sports? It's not your night.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a big thing in the NBA. It's like it felt like that last night with the Kings. Like you're right. The Clippers stormed out to the lead because they were hitting threes. PG was stroking, Kawhi was stroking, Norman Powell, Trey Mann. When Trey Mann's having a good night, you're toast.
Yeah, I love Trey, man.
No, he's great. He's a great role player. But the Kings weren't really responding. Their shooters were ice cold. Like Fox went ice cold, and when we saw that happen, it was kind of like, you're right. The punch, the knockout punch of a 3-point run. If you don't have a counter punch, you can't come back and win that game. You can't nickel and dime. You can't small ball your way back in the game.
Unless you rely on fouls, which I
Right.
think we also see. Like we
Yeah, it
see, it's
does
like,
happen.
okay, this team's shooting hella threes. Well, we're gonna keep getting a bunch of 2+1 baskets, like fouled layups, and that's really the only way without 3-ball shooting. I think my prediction is, like, in the NBA moving forward, I think we're gonna start to see more big men shooting, like a lot like Wembanyama, who can come in and shoot, and like you've seen Chet can shoot threes, and even like Alperen Şengün for the Rockets, like he shoots threes. KP,
Julius.
and it's like, I think you're going to start to see a lot of talent coming into the NBA that have a bit more range of 3-point shooting, which might help the blowout potential, or it might make it worse, because again, it comes down to, if you're hitting that night, you have another guy on the field who can shoot threes. If your whole team is hitting, it's almost even more blowout potential. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see the evolution of the NBA. But I think we can move on to our daily special, because I think we got our we got our little NBA complaints in here. We'll go into the refs another day because that's the other, like, as I've watched more NBA, I've noticed how horrible the reffing is.
The NBA and the
yeah.
NFL have huge officiating problems for sure.
I agree with you, and I think it's not even close to who's worse. Like, I do think the NFL has officiating problems from time to time.
Yeah.
And I think if I was like, it's like being like, oh yeah, like I have a thorn in my foot and it's kind of annoying. And then you go to the NBA and it's like, I don't have feet. I'm in a wheelchair. Like, these refs are horrendous.
It's bad either way, but I do get what you're saying. I do agree with you heavily.
But we'll get down that rabbit hole another day.
Yeah, we'll do a whole reffing podcast. We'll do an expose.
A whole ref podcast.
Let's do it.
And we'll be the
Coffee
JJ
shop
Redick show.
refs. Yep.
For just one day.
Yep.
Okay, daily special today. We do this for Thanksgiving. We're going to do it for Christmas. It's going to be fantasy football players as winter treats, holiday favorites, you know, little foodie is food, right? We're going food.
Foodie, I think you can go more like, I think you can go, if you feel like
beverage.
going vague, you can, but I think, food and beverage is the main focus of this.
I think we're each going to pick 3 players.
3 players feels like the right
3 players
cadence,
feels good.
definitely.
Okay.
I like that.
Well, then why don't you kick us off? I mean, you've been kicking us off for the show today, so
Yeah,
we'll
I'm
keep it
happy
running.
to, man. And I got one that's honestly kind of like too easy of a layup, and I think that you will probably agree with me. But I am not afraid to dive in head first with this love affair that I have with Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen. This man, Zach, is hot chocolate because he does not miss. He's that treat that keeps you warm and fuzzy at night. You can get him with little marshmallows. You can get him with a peppermint. You can get him with some espresso. You can get him dirty. But Zach, do you know how many games Josh Allen wasn't a QB1 for this year?
I'm going to say 3.
That's exactly right. Do you know how many games he was lower than QB15?
Is it also 3?
It's just one.
1. Okay.
One game, and it was week 1. Josh Allen has finished as QB7, QB8, QB1, QB2, QB13, QB4, QB2, QB4, QB15, QB5, QB1, QB9. He is hot chocolate. I personally would probably say he's hot chocolate with some peppermint and some espresso. Give me a peppermint mocha, Josh Allen. But Josh Allen is the pinnacle winter treat, the 1A, the 101. He's the best player in fantasy football, and I don't think it's particularly close.
I disagree on that part, but I love the hot chocolate comparison because he's steady, he's great, and you feel it when you have him on your team in the quarterback position. The rushing upside that he hasn't been running as much this year, but the rushing touchdown upside
10
is, I
rushing
think, the other
touchdowns.
part. You know, that's
Crazy.
insane. He just is a buoy to your team.
Yep.
He has those boom games,
Yep.
but he also, like you mentioned, he's never gonna bust really. And if he does, it's like you forgive him. You're like, whatever.
Yeah.
I got my one game of the season of like,
We got it out of the way early this year.
yeah, no, that is great getting out of the way. The number 1 seed team in my league has Josh Allen on his team, and it's
Nice.
It's like no coincidence. It's hard to have a bad team when you're helmed by Josh Allen. Especially, I think he didn't even draft him. I think he traded for him later, so he got the like early capital, and then got Josh Allen via trade. And it's like that's the
That's
best of both worlds.
crazy.
You don't spend up on a quarterback in the draft, and you still get the guy.
Nah, that's insane.
But I will disagree with you on the best player in fantasy football because my
I know who.
comparison, the Christmas ham or turkey, will go in between there. You know, your big family dish in the middle of the table that is big enough to feed everybody in there. It's Christian McCaffrey, bro. Christian McCaffrey is the one in fantasy football because he is just the best player in fantasy football. Having him on your team is unfair. He has been hurt at some times throughout the season and just not missed. Like it doesn't matter. He's playing through it. He went 16 straight games with a touchdown, I believe, heading into last year, which is just just nuts to get. Like, that's what wins fantasy football games. If you are getting touchdowns, like, yes, you can have great games with yards, and we see that all the time. But if you're getting touchdowns, you're winning your week. And he has had touchdowns in all but, can you guess how many games this year Christian McCaffrey has not scored a touchdown?
Just one, right?
One. It's
Yeah,
just
I remember.
no, two last week.
Was it two?
Last
Oh,
week.
he didn't score another
Yeah.
again last week? Oh, damn.
He didn't because he had that 75-yard run and then got pulled at the goal line.
That's right. Yeah.
Don't worry. He started 145 rushing yards in that game. So you're fine. You know, you're good. You didn't need to get the touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's insane. He's the number one running back in fantasy football. He's the number 3 player overall, which means he's like, normally quarterbacks score the most points in fantasy football. But he's at 3rd. Like, he's behind 1 and 2, which I believe 1 and 2 is Tyreek Hill, if I'm correct.
No way.
Has 1.
Oh, wow.
Or at least up there, you know.
Yeah.
But I will vet that as we go. But he's my Christmas turkey or ham, whatever you have at your family's
I could dig
Christmas,
that.
because
He's the entree.
He's got enough to fill everybody at the table. And if you had Christian McCaffrey on your team, you're the host. You're everybody else is just there, and you are providing.
I like that, man. I like that a lot. My next one, I gotta have to give credit where it's due. Christian McCaffrey is unbelievable. I was looking at his game log, and he has as many games outside of the top 12 as Josh Allen, but they're all RB15. And he has scored what, I believe 17 touchdowns this year. That's just like, come on, man. The only player off the top of my head who scored more touchdowns than Christian McCaffrey, who is a non-quarterback, is my next pick. And I'm going to go with, I'm going to switch it up. We agreed upon food and beverages, and I do think that will be my last pick. But we talked about being like legendary for Christmas music, and I said that Andy Williams is the guy to me who is the legendary Christmas music artist. Holiday season, happy holidays, the classics, the old hits, right? Like, you know, that's the stuff that our grandparents were, you know, twirling their fingers to when they were drinking their highballs in the 40s, you know. That being said, talk about old people twiddling their fingers. I'm talking about the Colonel, Raheem Mostert, Zach. 18 touchdowns this year. I believe he's the RB2 on the year, behind only McCaffrey. And we're looking at finishes of 17, 3, 2, 45, bad game against Buffalo. They do that to people. Just kidding. 10, 1, 34, 19, 13, 22, 5, 16, 4. Consistent. Not a ton of games outside of the top 24. A couple, not a ton. But when he's on, he's on. 30 points, 43 points, 36 points, 22 points, 24 points. Raheem Mostert is to fantasy football this season what Andy Williams is to Christmas music. He is.
Could you imagine trading him away early in the season because you felt like it wasn't going to continue? Like,
Hello,
after his
darkness,
huge
my old friend.
boons and like these crazy games, and being like, no, he can't keep this
I'm
up.
going to capitalize on this. You know what? It's a nice little knife twist there. I appreciate it. I did get some flack in my league. Like, the guy who got him ended up being first place. Go figure. And he commented, "Thanks, Kev." And you know what? I will say, for the record, the second and the third I acquired from Raheem Mostert, I used to go out and get Aaron Jones and DeAndre Hopkins, who,
Yeah, does that feel good right now?
you know, I think it will next year when DeAndre Hopkins is still a viable fantasy player. Raheem Mostert is great, but I think he's Andy Williams. I think the clock's ticking on his years. But I loved watching him just continue to dominate this year. You'll watch a Dolphins game and you'll see somebody make a big run and you're like, that's probably Achan, and then you'll see him turn around and you'll see 31. And you're like, my goodness, like Mostert still has it. He still has that juice, man. He's a special player.
He really does, and he fits that Dolphins scheme like so
Yep.
perfectly.
18 touchdowns.
Yeah, 18 touchdowns is crazy, and I mean the health of Devon Achane obviously has something to do with it.
Right.
But that's the game, man. That's how it goes. You
Right.
can't always count people out for that.
Yeah.
Well, my next comparison is a little with the food, drink side. And I think Adam Thielen of the Carolina Panthers is eggnog. Delicious. Every year, you always want to have a glass, at least one, because it's almost like tradition. And you get that first sip and you get like the nutmeg, the creaminess, and it's really good. And then like 5 sips in, you're like, I don't really want the rest of this. And my tummy kind of hurts.
That's real, bro. That's real.
And that's what Adam Thielen is. You started the season with 2 points first week, but then 16 points, 26, 11, 22, 23, 11. Man hadn't scored less than 10 points in 6 straight games. And then your tummy hurts, man. Then you start to finish the glass and you're like, ooh, you're back down to 5 targets, 3, 6, 7 in the last 3 works, hasn't got more than 10 fantasy points in the last couple weeks. You're starting him because you had the first couple weeks and you're like, oh,
Never forget that.
it's a Christmas classic. I gotta drink my eggnog. But let's be real. No one wants to finish their glass of eggnog. You get the first half in and then you're like,
It kind of
that's
sucks.
enough.
It
That's
kind of
enough
sucks.
for me. I don't really want any more. And that's Adam Thielen, unfortunately, this year, because he burned so bright at the beginning. But man, does he make your tummy hurt at the end?
Oh, dude, and talk about old guy I wish I traded in that same league. I feel you, man. That's real, man. Eggnog's weird for me because like I used to like eggnog more when I drank, but now that I'm sober, I kind of am like, ooh, there's really no redeeming qualities to this. And I recently bought like an eggnog cold brew because it was like, oh, like you said, holidays, eggnog, da da da. And I think we will make that mistake as people until the end of time. I think that time will wash away
Yeah.
all of the sins of eggnog until you're like, oh, eggnog's not that bad, and then you drink it, and you're like, it is kind of
No, I'm going to
it's
drink it
ass.
every year. I can't lie to you. I will get it every year. And I want to have 3 sips of eggnog once a year. Like, that's
Yeah,
it. That's
can dig
that's
that.
enough. But if I go without it, like if I went an entire holiday season, I was like, man, I didn't have my 3 sips of eggnog, I'll be disappointed.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do it again next year, but I don't want more.
I think that might be how I need to start treating candy corn as well. I think candy corn has the same play. Like, give me like one, those little Halloween packs that are like they look like the little packets of gummies, but they're just candy corns. You know what I'm thinking of? Like the little tiny ones, they're like they have like 5 candy corn in them. I need to start
I
buying
think
those.
so.
I bought a
Just the
bulk
little
bag this
baby
year because I
ones.
was like, oh, I like candy corn. I think candy corn's good. I'm not one of those people who thinks it sucks. And I ate probably like 15 candy corn. And I was like, I've had my fill. I don't need candy corn anymore. So I think we need to start doing that with eggnog. They need to start serving like pre-portioned, like at the lunch table, those little tiny milks. Like we need one of those
Little baby ones.
little
Yeah,
baby
100%.
carton of nog. Great pick. Great pick. I think we're knocking this one out of the park, sir. My last one, I have a hot take, and it might actually be a hot take. This is one of those ones I don't think I really know what the consensus is on this thing is, but I'm gonna compare Broncos wide receiver Cortland Sutton, who has had an unbelievably consistent year. 10 touchdowns spread across each of those 10 games. He has a touchdown in 10 games. He has 10 touchdowns. He has fantasy finishes ranging from wide receiver 82 all the way up to wide receiver 8. But more consistently, most weeks he's in the 14 to 26 range. Cortland Sutton to me is peppermint candy because I think peppermint candy is all reliable. And I think you get your hands on a candy cane, you're going to suck that puppy down. You're going to turn it into a spear. You're going to suck it until it's a spear. And personally, for me, I do like the fruit ones almost probably more than the mint ones because they're more versatile. But the mint ones are classic. Not unlike eggnog, you do want one a year. But there's just a ceiling on how good it can be. It's not a Reese's peanut butter cup. It's not hot chocolate. It's a good, solid, middling holiday treat. It is the most iconic, and I'll give Cortland Sutton this touchdown streak that he's on with Russ is pretty iconic, but it's not at all the best, and it's not at all the worst. So I think Cortland Sutton to me is peppermint candy.
I like it. I like it. He's had a resurgent year this year. I don't think people expected him to be good. He was kind of left for dead.
Yeah.
I think I did a dynasty startup and I got him in like the 15th round or something because it was just like, you know, everybody thought it was going to be Jerry Jeudy, and it has not been Jerry Jeudy. It's been Sutton, and he's made some crazy catches this year.
I think he's a really good receiver.
Two of the craziest catches we've seen all year both came from Courtland Sutton last week with the little one-handed, like Randy Moss-esque 50-yard bomb.
Falling down.
The other, again, I believe, one-handed toe touch, like barely in bounds.
That was against Buffalo. It was a beautiful, beautiful catch.
Yeah, best catch of the year. I think that's easy catch of the year on that one. Yeah, man, he was left for dead, and I think that's the only part of the comparison that I think you miss out on is that he really was left for dead. Like, no one wanted him coming into the year, but he's been nothing but consistent. And every week, everybody's like, okay, he can't do it again. He does it again. He does it again. He gets another touchdown. The streak is crazy.
Yeah.
No, I like it. I'm in for it.
How are you on peppermint candy? What's your take on peppermint candy?
I don't like peppermint candy.
Okay.
I'm not a peppermint fan in general, so like that's not great. But I'll get a peppermint hot chocolate once a year. I'll dabble a little bit, but in general, I prefer the fruit candy canes or
those are good.
Anything along those lines.
Yeah, I like those.
It's just like after a little bit, the peppermint, I just get old. Like it gets old quick for me.
Yeah.
I just like the first, like if I could like lick a peppermint candy cane and then just be like, all right, I'm done. Like that's enough. That's all I want.
You and your holiday flavors, man. You're not an abundance kind of guy.
I'm not an abundance kind of guy, especially when it comes to sweets. I just don't.
One lick and you're good.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't need any more than that.
That's funny.
Well, my very last player comparison is this is going to be a deeper cut and specific to my family. So I hope they don't take offense to this, but AJ Dillon is the vegetarian turkey substitution. It's like I have a vegetarian family. So my sister's a vegetarian, my aunt, my uncle is now a vegetarian too. So when we have Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever the holiday thing we're doing, there's something called tofurkey, and it's like a log.
Oh, I've heard of that.
And you know what? It's not bad. Like I'm not gonna say like it's bad. Because if it was there and it was the only thing there, I'd eat it. You know, I would still have some, and my family makes it pretty good. But compared to the real thing, that's the Aaron Jones that's sitting over there,
right?
That you've had before, you know, you're like, oh, a nice piece of like Christmas ham or turkey, and then you move over to AJ Dillon and you have the tofurkey, and you're like, this isn't as good, man.
Like,
this
I'm
really
good on this.
isn't. It doesn't fill you up, and that's AJ Dillon because we saw him have a monster snow game a couple years back, where it's like 125 yards,
legend,
2 touchdowns. We're like, it's the heir apparent. AJ Jones, Aaron Jones is moving on, you know, and then they re-signed him, and they were like, okay, I get that, but after 2 years, it's gonna be AJ Dillon. Like, be careful, he's like an RB1 waiting. And you know who's not played most of this entire year? Aaron Jones.
I know.
You know what AJ Dillon's done for that? Can you tell me how many RB1 finishes he's had this year?
My guess would be like 1, but I don't even know if that.
No, 0.
Oh, wow.
His highest was RB13 in week 5, which equates
give it to him.
13.6 points. That was his close to RB1 finish. Other than that, in games, he's received more than 68% or more than 60% of snaps, which I'm counting as weeks Aaron Jones is not doing anything. We have RB33, RB68, RB23, RB25, RB24, RB28.
So
that's
a couple,
not an Aaron Jones substitution.
2 sprinkled, not at all. Couple 2 sprinkled in there. So you don't hate the tofurkey, but you don't like it.
Yeah, I'm not reaching for it.
You're not reaching for it.
It's going to come around. I think we need to be aware that when Aaron Jones is no longer a part of the equation, that may not mean AJ Dillon is the new thing.
Yeah.
He may not be the big guy in Green Bay that we wanted him to be.
He is the big guy, but he's not the big guy, you feel?
Yeah, he may not be the answer that we thought he was. The hype train of AJ Dillon may not come to fruition. Is it because he's a bad scheme fit? It could be. He's a downhill runner in a zone West Coast offense that needs
Jones
like quickness.
just fits that offense, dude. He really
does. He
does.
fits it perfectly. The fact that we haven't had him all year is a real
devastating.
bummer.
And when we've had him, he's been great.
And it's just a question of like, he may not fit there. He may not be as good as we want him to be. And it's a bummer because I really liked him. I really wanted to be on the AJ Dillon hype train. Yeah. And if he was in a different offense, maybe I would. But in this offense, he's Tofurkey. He's not the real deal.
Let's see what happens. He's got one more year left on his rookie contract, right? After this year? This was his third season?
I believe so, but I'll check.
So let's see what happens. He's probably going to be in Green Bay for one more year, and maybe without Aaron Jones after this year. I think you've been a big proponent that they'll move on from Aaron Jones after this year. With some restructure, he did some restructuring that might have made like lessened the blow if they moved on from him.
AJ Dillon is a free agent after this year.
Yeah, then you might get your wish. You might get to see him in a different offense, and maybe Tofurkey like in a wrap or something, or like maybe it tastes better. But we know what the difference between the holiday ham and the Tofurkey is when we're at the table for sure.
You do. You know the difference, and it's unfortunate that we're not getting that.
Yeah, tofu in general just scares me. I don't like the texture. It's too gelatinous.
Oh, I love tofu.
Can't do the gelatin meat.
You have to make it right. Tofu doesn't have taste by itself. It needs to be flavored with other things, and American food doesn't do that very well. But man, there's some great tofu dishes out there.
I think I might have had some tofu that I liked in a ramen. Maybe does that sound like a thing?
In what?
In a ramen, I believe it was like a Japanese.
Probably. Yeah, like a miso soup.
Yes.
Thing
It was in like a soup. It was good.
It's so good.
I didn't even know it was tofu. I was like, what are these little cubes?
Yeah, because it's good in like other dishes. And you know what? It's really, really good in its smoothies because you don't even notice it. You put tofu in there. I know, I hear you, but it's a really good source of protein, and it makes the smoothie like silky and creamy. Like if you've never had tofu in a smoothie, you haven't had the smoothest smoothie you've ever had.
That's fascinating. I'm gonna have to look into it. I'm gonna have to do some field research there. That's an interesting. You won't even
taste it. You throw some strawberries and whatever you want in there, and then like a nice cube of tofu, and it's like adding yogurt to your smoothie, but an extra silkiness. And it just makes it smooth.
Interesting.
And really good. Yeah.
Gonna have to do some research there. That's interesting.
Well, let's wrap up here. We got a couple minutes left. So we're gonna touch on some other pro sports news. We had some NBA conversations earlier today, so I think we can kind of move that to the side. But we're in Los Angeles. Big news out here. Shohei Ohtani signed to the Dodgers, 10-year, $700 million contract. Massive, biggest. It's almost double the second biggest contract in MLB history, which was Mike Trout, and that was a 12-year, I think $482 million contract. Goodness. So 2 less years, almost $300 million more dollars. Shohei Ohtani is 2 players, so I think it makes sense in that aspect. You're paying for 2 MVP caliber players at different positions. You have a pitcher and one of the best home run hitters in the MLB. The fact that he came to the Dodgers is crazy. The rich get richer, and his contract, I'm excited. Is fascinating.
This is the part. Yeah, we need to figure this out. We need to break this down.
So the MLB is really interesting in terms of contract. They don't have a salary cap per se the way the NFL does. It's more of like you make enough money, you can spend enough money, which is why like the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Yankees are always the biggest teams, and like you have
biggest markets,
garbage teams that sit there, like the Pirates they're never gonna do what the other teams can. They have a wealth management issue in the MLB. I've always thought that, and it's hurting the sport. I think
takes away some of the competitive integrity for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And then teams that have high draft picks that get good players can't afford to keep them, so then they lose the good players, so on and so forth. But Ohtani's contract, details came out. Apparently he wanted it as well. This was not a Dodgers thing. This was an Ohtani thing. I get the logic in both aspects of it, but for 10 years, he's paid $20 million, so $2 million a year. That gives the Dodgers room to sign other players. gives them room to be an even bigger contender than they already are. Kershaw, Betts, Ohtani, insane lineup, and they can sign other people. So in an NFL contract, that's like if Patrick Mahomes' contract was $2 million a year, and they were like, great, now we can sign all of the best free agents too, because our biggest player isn't costing us anything.
Yeah. I think my thoughts are like you're right. There's no cap in baseball. So for that 9 years, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess maybe the owner saves money. But my question is, Zach, and I know you probably aren't, intimate with this specific contract, but I wonder, do you think there's like a guaranteed money added per year played on the contract that comes if the contract is voided or he's released? Like, let's say the contract is voided or he's released in the 7th year and they get 14, they get off with having Ohtani for 7 years and they pay him 14 mil. Like, that would never happen, right? The guarantees
No,
would kick in, or
it's fully guaranteed. So his contract is it's a little different than NFL where it's like 20% is guaranteed. His full contract is guaranteed. So regardless of what happens, he's making
okay,
that money
good.
regardless.
He's almost going to be a billionaire off playing baseball. That's sick.
Yeah, and it's all deferred. So there are a couple benefits to that for him as well because he pays taxes both in Japan and America. So he is not paying nearly as much per year. I don't know how that averages out at the end, but 680 million of it is deferred to the end of his contract. So basically what he's saying is I can make enough money off of 2 million a year from the Dodgers and all of the crazy endorsements he's going to get from the LA area and the other
Right.
endorsements from all of his stuff.
That's
He's
its own
gonna make
career.
enough money.
Yeah, that's its own career.
He's not
He's good.
hurting for money here.
Right.
And then he's going to finish 10 years, probably think about retirement and go, okay, now let me cash my $680 million check and be set for the rest of my entire life. And let me give room to play October baseball. Let me get some room to actually play meaningful baseball. Give me some people on this team that can help us win a World Series.
Yeah.
And I'm only going to charge you $2 million a year.
Yeah, because the Angels were they weren't doing enough for having one of the best players ever. And a lot of the people that I've
two of the best players ever.
Yeah.
And the Angels couldn't win baseball games.
A lot of what I was hearing about like the Ohtani stuff was that he was basically like if Mahomes or Allen or Burrow also was like Micah Parsons in the same player. That's
it
insane.
It is 100% what it is because he is the last person in baseball history to ever do something even similar to Ohtani was Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth, there of players that have hit, it was players that have won more than 10 games while having like pitching strikeouts and hitting home runs. Babe Ruth was the previous best, and I believe his best season was a 10 home run season. I'll have to recheck the stats, but it was like 10 home runs and he had a bunch of strikeouts that he pitched. Ohtani, in the same thing, game when you've won more than 10 games of a season, hit 36 home runs. Like, yeah, he's a freak. He's a freak.
It'll be fun to see how his career shakes out because he's still pretty young, right?
Yeah, he's decently young. He started out playing in Japan, actually, and played for the Japan team, like the Japan version of the MLB. And actually, when he came over to America, no one really wanted him, thought he was going to be kind of as good as he was. And he played lower baseball for a while for the Angels. And then they were like, all right, let's bring this kid up. And he's just done it ever since. And
that's awesome. I love to see it. I love to see the story, man. He's a true success story. He's a true legend of the sport. I have a cup in my house. I have a souvenir Ohtani cup. I've been to 2 Angels games. Unfortunately, he had bad games. Both games I've been to. So, what if I was like, eye test? I watched him play, Zach, and he was 0 for 7 in the 2 games that I went to.
Not that good.
Yeah, he's overrated. No, I am super excited for the sport of baseball. Maybe as a sports podcast, maybe some intrigue in the sport will pull our focus the same way the NBA has, and maybe we'll become even more well-rounded sports fans, Zach.
It's going to be a question. I mean, we live in LA, so we'll be surrounded by all of it. Dodgers tickets are going to be incredibly expensive now. You will not be able to go to a Dodgers game, which is a bummer.
Yeah.
And I think they might make all 680 million off of his jersey sales. So, you know, the Dodgers are going to be just fine. I know people were like, some of the questions around it, people have been like, oh, what are the Dodgers going to do in 10 years then when they have to pay $680 million? Like, the Dodgers are going to be fine.
What?
Like, yeah, they're sitting here now and they're like, you know what? Let me just, we're saving $680 million. They're probably going to win a World Series or two in that time. Congrats. You've made your $680 million back. You've paid for Ohtani in jersey sales and one World Series. That's all you have to do.
They're just really kicking a can down the road, though. It's like that is like the most extreme deference I've ever seen. Not just in sports, maybe in history.
Second most extreme deference in history. The first is with the Pittsburgh Penguins, the hockey team. And let me
what was it? Max Crosby?
No.
Or not Max Crosby, Sidney Crosby. Mario Lemieux.
Sidney Crosby is still playing. Mario Lemieux, they actually, his contract, I don't remember the exact details, so I'll go in like vague, but they basically did a similar thing where they were like, hey, we're going to pay you so-and-so, but a lot of it's going to be deferred for when you're done. And then they deferred to when he was done, and they were like, yeah, we can't pay you. Sorry. Like, we don't have enough. So he actually got ownership of the team. Like, instead of getting the deferred payment, took like a majority, like a large stake ownership of the team, and still has minority ownership in the team as well, because they literally were like, yeah, we don't have enough money to pay you after all this deferment. And he was like, fine, give me the team then. Like, you can't pay me. I now own part of the team that I played for. And he still does own part of it. Not the same amount that he did at the time. But yeah, that was the craziest deferment, because he was just like, fine, you can't pay me. Give me the team. Like, I will now own the team that I just
played for. Good for him, because he probably could have just sued them into all hell. Good for him.
He basically did. He basically was like, I'm taking what you.
Well, I mean, that's fair, but
I think we can wind down, man.
Yeah, man. Unbelievable evening in the morning, really, in the coffee shop. But you know, who knows when our wonderful listeners are listening to this. I want to give special shout outs to Jersey Tom, who never misses an episode. All my awesome homies at Black Angus. All my awesome homies in the fantasy leagues that I'm in. I appreciate everybody who checks out our work. It means a lot to us. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube, like and comment on the socials. It really goes such a long way, guys. We can't thank you enough.
Appreciate all the support, and we'll see you all next week.